Hello Chipsters, it's me Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. I probably haven't noticed, but we're about changed in the painting room. My wife kindly decided that it wasn't working and things had to be changed around. I'm very grateful. She's not into hear that. Yeah, I suppose there's more space and light. Never mind. Hence my Ukrainian flag is now flying over here. Slava Ukraina. Anyway, reason for this video, getting derailed already, is recently, as in just a couple of 3-4 hours ago, a package came to me from a marra over in Ireland, Steve Sandford, and he'd said to me on the messenger, Gav, I'd like you to send some. He's a painter. He doesn't paint as much now. He's got health problems himself. Eyes are shot like most of us. And he says, I've got more lead. I know it's not lead, but we still call it lead. Still, I've got more lead than I'm ever going to paint. And he said, do you mind if I send you some bits? Sorry, I should look at the camera and not at the figures. Do you mind if I send you some figures over, and occasionally I'll send you some more? And you feel really humbled because he doesn't want any money for any of this, and it's just a really kind gesture. I mean, this lot is all Empress miniatures, apart from one small little packet. They're all Empress miniatures from their Vietnam range. Well, as you know, I am a big fan of that conflict, that war. Big fan of war, but I just mean I like the period, and I like all of that era in the Vietnam War. And as I say, I do like the I-Corps area particularly, but I do follow it anywhere. Down in the Mekong, it doesn't matter really. Along the Laos and whatever border, Cambodia. Thank you, Gav. So. It was just really weird. He'd said it wasn't long since he said he was going to send this package over, but last night I'd finished the World War II figures from the painting side of it. I'm going to varnish them in the next. I've got another thank you video to do for John Crown, and now I'm going to varnish the figures and get them. Get them ready for basing tomorrow, and I'll take a few days. Then I usually, where I do it is varnish the figures on the bottle tops, and if they haven't got a base on already, which these World War II figures haven't, because as I said I run out of bases, I then base them and then give them a second coat of varnish after that. And it's the same if they were stuck on the bases. They get a second coat of varnish. So the 3 Old West figures that I showed ages ago are being in my dust-free drawer, waiting for their second coat. And because they're in the drawer, I keep forgetting them. So I got them out last night because I wanted to dig a couple more Vietnam figures out. I'd already cleaned and primed and stuck down, although I'd not putted the bases, but I just wanted to get stuck into them. I'd got another 3 US Marines, 2 or 3 US Marines, or Navy Corpsmen and 2 US Marines, and the last 2 of the North Vietnamese Army figures, whose light machine gun has completely gone out of my head right now. I normally have to write it down. Whenever I mention them, I write it down because I keep forgetting. Head problems. But I just started painting. I thought, right, I've done those, got those to that, so I'd got literally about an hour left. I didn't really want to start anything major. I've got the client's figures to clean up, but I wasn't going to get a lot done in 40 or 50 minutes. So I thought, no, I'll this was like about 10 o'clock last night. I thought I'll have half an hour, 40 minutes painting the 2 MVA guys. I hadn't done that for a while. And then lo and behold, package arrives just as I'm about to leave, go out the door this morning, and it was chock full of MVA. So, and there's some others there which we're going to see in a minute. So Steve, I ramble. I'm sorry if I've derailed this. I just wanted to say thank you. It's really kind of you. as I said to you on the message, not breaking any confidences, for me to buy all that metal off Empress, I'm not destitute, do not get me wrong. I am not continuously playing the little violin. I'm not destitute. If I can afford to pay for all the figures I paint and when other people can't afford to put the heating on or eat a meal, I'm not destitute. It's just hobby-wise that there is a, you know, I'm not on a lot of money, and obviously there's a breaking point, especially with my wife. Funny enough, so I'd have never, you know, I know what I'd have done with Empress. I would have, as I say, I showed those English Civil War off yesterday, I believe. Sometimes I make the video a day or two in advance, and I would have wanted to paint that as a unit, so I would have found the money, because hopefully I'll get it back if I sell the figures, if I can sell the figures. And I would have ended up buying a couple more packets of Marines or something, you know, Vietnam related. But I wouldn't have been able to go full blast at it like this. So you've really helped me out, Marra, and I appreciate it. And like I said to you, I can't say when they're going to get painted, and he's not expecting that. There's no, you know, he's not doing this like paint them. I want to see them up every 2 minutes. It's just as and when, like these two MVA guys. So what I normally like to do is clean a few what I call spares up, so I can, again, like these guys I'm painting now, I can stick in my drawer, and then just when I've got a free moment and I'm in the mood to do Vietnam, I'll usually dig out a couple of figures. I'm still waiting for Rubicon to do their M48. Does anybody know what's happening with that? It seems to be going on forever. I know it costs money for firms to produce this stuff, but does anybody know what's happening with the Rubicon Vietnam range? I'm not, it's going to sound horrible to Rubicon, I'm not interested in their figures, but I am interested in their in the half tracks, the M113 and the M48. You know, I don't want loads. I just like a M48. You can't have Huey without an M48, can you? And an Ontos. I mean, actually, Empress do an Ontos. Ontos is a very small track vehicle. Believe a two-man crew, commander, gunner, and driver, I believe. And it's literally got about 3 recoilless rifles stuck on either side. I don't know if they were the 75s or the 90s, or even larger, I'm not sure. And they'd literally turn around a corner, point them in a direction, and more or less blast them all and go, boom. And they were good for used around fire bases as well, because they could also obviously fire beehive rounds, I believe, and canister, that type of stuff. A beehive round is I believe it's the one with the little fletchets, so they're like literally like, you know, darts that you throw into a dartboard, more or less like that. Aluminium, I believe, could be steel, I can't remember. And they just launch them like that, and you can see where they've been. They pepper the trees and anybody else they happen to hit with a bunch of steel darts or aluminium. So we're all over the shop, aren't we? Nothing changes. So yeah, you aren't going to see much of a difference. My Ukrainian flag flies when I put my flag up when I make my videos, because otherwise they get knocked off. It gets knocked off all the time. So it comes up. I'll fly it when I make my videos. So I'm getting a bit more lighting, which I do believe, although it is summer, so it's probably a bit more lighter in here anyway. Yeah. That's it. So should we go down to the bench and take a look? Why not, eh? Right guys, we've got shiny metal, and because I was putting out all the figures to see what I'd got, I hadn't put a base card behind. I was actually setting up to do John's thank you. Let's just move my palette slightly. So most of the figures, the marine figures we most probably have seen before, but I'll just quickly show those under camera. I've got Anzacs as well, so Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. I've got some Anzacs, which I believe might be SAS. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll have a look at those as well. And of course, I've got a whole slew here of MVA stroke Viet Cong. and there might even be Viet Minh from the French Indochina days. So we've got this guy with a British sten, blowing his whistle, is it, by the look of it? They do. I mean, they were saying, I believe on the website, although I might have heard it on the podcast of Two Fat Lardies, they very much put them into scale. I think they were talking mainly of their, oh no, I think it was on their website, they were talking about their Arvin range, which I will be getting into, and they said they've scaled the guys down to be more, you know, to match what a normal Vietnamese person would be compared to an American. So let's just see. I take it they might have done that with these guys previous. He's running. I'm just trying to get a standing up figure. Oh, he's more or less okay. So yeah, they are slighter, slightly smaller. Which would be in keeping. I mean, these are they were talking about their new Arvin range, but obviously these are the enemy, if you want to call them that. So yeah, he's got captured American blooper, either from the Americans or from the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. Looks like he's got a cape on. Is that poncho, cape? We've got the classic bugler with his flag attached underneath. Need to drill that out. That's flat, so that'll have to be drilled out. I don't like it when they're flat. But again, lovely figures. Chest rig. Isn't it weird, you know, the chest rigs, how popular they became. We used to wear chest rigs in Ulster a lot of the time compared to our normal webbing. And when I was driving the Snatch Land Rovers, I was always wearing chest rig. It was a lot easier to sit and drive. The only thing is with a chest rig, when you hit the dirt, obviously they push you up more. So there's pros and cons to a normal webbing. But I digress. Sorry. Happens when you get into your 50s. You just reminisce. We've got another commander here. It's like the AK with a folding bayonet. The bayonets are attached to these constantly, and they just unfold them. Again, it's a bit like I did with the British, with just metal, white metal figures. They're not always the easiest to show under a light. I'm not sure what racket you can hear in the background. I've got half the neighbourhood washing cars with jet washers and stuff. If it gets much louder, I might probably have to wait with John's video until it all calms down. But yeah, we got 1,001 water bottles there. We've got headless people, and you get your variety of head poses. We've got covered pith helmets and pith helmets. I like that because, you know, you either glue them directly in or you pin them in, but it does give you a head variety. Is it the PPSH, this one, the submachine gun, the Soviet submachine gun from the war? There are some actual one with heads on already, so I'll show them. I like the nice long bayonet. These have got cast packs on. Oh, well, he did have a nice long bayonet. Unfortunately, he's just decided to divest himself of same. There we go. Never mind. Might try and sort that out. Make sure I don't think it's a piece of flash and get rid of it. Here's one that hasn't lost his bayonet. Probably I can actually do something with that. Again, these I think could be used for Viet Minh as well. I might be wrong, but I believe so. So for the French war in Indochina, when it was a French colony. You might have heard of the famous Battle of Dien Bien Phu. A real mess up from French commanders that decided to slap a base down that's surrounded by hills that you can't hold, to bring on a battle and then slaughter them all. And then funny enough, they completely tactically outthought the French, and captured the hills around Dien Bien Phu, so they couldn't use the airfield that it was there for. And one by one, the French were, or the different French fire bases around Dien Bien Phu fell one after the other. But I have to say, absolutely heroic defence by the French at Dien Bien Phu. And it wasn't their metropolitan army mainly, it was a colonial army, so we're talking, as you'd expect, French Foreign Legion, as it was then, Vietnamese paratroopers, and they were still volunteering to jump in to Dien Bien Phu, because you couldn't land anybody in there by then. They were still jumping into Dien Bien Phu with no parachute training, by the way, to support their marras in the defence of the fort. And when it fell, a lot of these guys were obviously never seen again, whether French or Vietnamese. There were obviously all the French African colonial soldiers there as well, Senegal and Algeria and all those places. Is that BRDM? No, BRDM, that's a blooming vehicle. Yeah, those guys that were captured at Vienna when it finally fell and they had to surrender, a lot of them were still being repatriated, almost up to when the Americans left Vietnam. Horrendous, but they were absolute warriors, those guys that held Dien Bien Phu. They made the communists literally pay for it, metre by metre, yard by yard, and that was all guys from whether there were a few French metropolitan there obviously, but a lot of them were mainly their colonial armies, and literally fought every inch of the way. It was just a really bad tactical decision or strategic decision, whatever you want to call it, to decide to make Dien Bien Phu what it was. And again, as we know, they thought they'd done such a great job, they'd try it at Khe Sanh. Only they were fighting. The bravery was no different. The difference with the French is the enemy had got into. They were literally fighting bunker by bunker, and the French still wouldn't throw the towel in. Calling on, I think that's a brilliant pose. But they tried to do it at Khe Sanh, and obviously the Americans had a lot more money, in the sense of they could afford B-52s and all the rest of it, and they were absolutely fought into the ground, the MVA. And that was the main problem, in my opinion, French Indochina. They just weren't prepared to put France was broke really, but they didn't have the money they wouldn't put metropolitan troops really in any numbers, conscripts. Obviously they've got Algeria as well going on, but it might have been different if they'd had the troops and the just literally the backup to do it. Here we go, Gav waffling on again. These are Australians or New Zealanders, whichever you want to do. I believe they They come with these, you can add on packs to them, which Steve's obviously done. This is an Owing gun, so it's a form of Sten gun. I believe it goes off to one side, the magazine, like that. It's not just bent over. But a top feeding magazine, I believe, is supposed to, you get a better feed on the spring than you do from a bottom feeding magazine or like the British Sten at the side. I believe that was the reason, rather than just putting it at the side. I might be wrong. It could have also been taking cover, but I think it was made down to the magazine feed. The Australians had, they were in that crossover period where they still got a lot of British influence gear, but a lot of American stuff as well. And they tended to have a sprinkling of the Owing guns would tend to be going with obviously radio operators and maybe officers and stuff like that. The famous FN, or as we call it in the British Army, the SLR. I've said it a million times before. Why the Americans led the way with the 5.562 round. You want a 7.62, you know, it's proven since a 7.62 literally put a hole through you like a steam train's driven through you. I mean, it's especially, you know, you're fighting in wooded terrain. It wasn't all just jungle, you know, but you know, heavily wooded terrain where a 7.62 round will go like a, you know, I don't know, just knock chunks out of the things that are around it. Where a 5.62, I just don't, you know, obviously we were pushed onto the 5.62 when we had gave up the SLR for the SA80. And there was a lot of good things with that rifle when they finally got it going, but the SLR, it was indestructible. You know, yes, it might not have been a great weapon for built up areas so much as in fighting room to room, but definitely give me, it's like the M14, you know, the M14 was a decent round. It could really, you know, do some damage. So I'm trying to look there. It looks like it's got a first field dressing, which we often did, strapped round the butt. He's even carrying a blooper. Look at his extra pack on the back there. The Australians tended to go lighter in the field, which they'd had a lot of experience in Malaya and Borneo Sarawak in the Indonesian confrontation, and rather than a lot of the American troops would be carrying airbeds and stuff like that, you know, and helmets and stuff. And yeah, obviously a helmet will often save you getting killed easier. I absolutely understand that, but it's a damn sight easier to patrol with a soft hat on. A lot less noisy as well. But they tended to, as I say, not carry as much, I suppose you'd call it luxuries, and that's not a slight on the Americans, it's just different ways of fighting. At the end of the day, everybody's putting rounds down range at the enemy. I suppose it don't matter what you're carrying, but I do prefer the Australian option of how they patrolled. So I'm trying to find there we go, it's picking up all the clutter. Silence there on the Sten. He's got his bandana around his head. As I say, I'm not sure if these were from the SAS pack, so SAS, we call them SAS. Oh, that's a lovely pose again. So it's always hard with bare metal to get the real feel for sculpts, you know, when you're just seeing them through a camera. I'll look for this guy. Is he? Like he's got gaiters on. I'll just spread these around, so I'm not 100% sure if I'm looking at an Australian in or Viet Minh. I think he might be Viet Minh. I'll soon see when I get some a closer look. But it's just, I thought the Australian poses were really nice. I remember when they put the greens up, I thought, oh yes. I didn't want to get any straight away because I was already heavily into the battle way. That lovely stuff. Can't beat the old SLR. And here's a Australasian or Kiwi with M16. Can't see a lot there, can you, with the light shining? We've got one more. And then we just got the Americans. I believe I've shown the Americans these ones before because I've got them, but they'll still, you obviously still need extras in your unit, so that's no problem. What I do with these is I get a little 0.4, 0.5 drill, and I just drill them out very gently, chain drill them, and then just open that up with a scalpel. It does look better. I think the first couple, somebody picked me up on it, do not drill them out. I think it was the first couple I'd done. And I thought, actually I haven't, so I'll have a go. And I haven't looked back really, I've drilled them all out since. He's got his glasses on. I've done it, I think this was one of the very first ones I ever did. Blooper, getting opened up ready. Got another blooper. And more glasses again. And then one that Steve's done. Nice one, Steve. Right guys, thank you very much for stopping by and taking a look. Really appreciate it. I can't thank Steve enough. As I say, as and when these get painted, along with everything else that I do, you know, it'll just take time to get through them all. I mean, no rush, but they're there now. They're in a, you know, they'll be in me little Tupperware box, just waiting. And I'll say I'll try and pick a few out all the time. Always have 3 or 4. Well, usually 4, you know, ready to paint, just cleaned, primed, and at least stuck on a base. So I'm doing this again, looking at things. So yeah, we'll see those coming along. I've got the two MVA figures that I'm started work on painting those. Just as a side, as I say, I've got so much other stuff I do. They literally, I'll put them on the desk, put a piece of paper towel over them, and just keep any dust off where I can, and just pick them up as I've got spare 5 minutes in between when I'm working on other stuff. So I should have been working, I wanted to work on the 29 Roadster today, and USS Lexington, she's been taken out of a box up the top there above the flag, ready to work today, but now it's going to be tomorrow because I just don't have time. I might have a go on Lexington tonight if I've got time, but if not, it'll be a day of modelling tomorrow. So thanks again, Steve. Say it a million times over, but what a gift, brilliant. As I say, it's going to take me it's going to take me a year to get through all these. But I really did. The MVA, as I've said to you, which you'll see on these two when I get round to them, I'm doing more like in a classic tufts, and although I would prefer to do some, it's too expensive for me to buy the modelling, you know, like the little ferns and all that, and I find the fish tank stuff that people use as the larger, that's not so bad on the, obviously if you're going to do your jungly type terrain, but on the base I'm still looking at I'm going to try and do some type of. I just need to see more Vietnam foliage, because a lot of it, to be honest with you, is more like, we call it jungle, and then obviously as they call it, 3-tier canopy or whatever they call it. There was obviously stuff there, but there's also a lot of what we would just call very thick woods. But I want to put a bit more shrubbery around them, that type of thing. So they will be. I know it'll look a bit weird when I've got all my marines on rubble bases and all these guys, but I just thought, well, at the moment it's painting and collecting them for the joy of painting and collecting, but I could well still game them. I still want to make some terrain for Hue, just for photo backdrops, to be honest with you. So it will look a bit weird. Obviously these are guys going to be on woodland bases, for want of a better word, but they can be used for a lot of other options. Whereas I know my Marines are always going to be on rubble bases. The Australians will definitely be on woodland bases as well. So yeah. If anybody does know, I go on. I haven't been on the Rubicon site for about a month or a few weeks, but they've been going on about these M48s and the Vietnam. They brought the figures out and stuff, but I can't see that. They keep showing the Centurion because they'd already done that, and I love the Centurion. It's one of my favourite tanks. But because I've got my Marine Corps for Hue, I really would like an M48 at some stage, and then maybe a couple of M113s. They're all expensive, so it's just something that I want to get as and when. But yeah, just the classic stuff, and I've got to get me an Ontos. I think for the Marines, I've still got to get myself they do a light mortar section, so I might get a light mortar section, and a recoilless gun section as well, and some 66s, law fire and forget law 66s, and bazooka as well. Anything else, Gav? But Marine Corps were just transitioning from the bazooka to the 66. Yeah, that's it really. So thank you very much. I'm going to end up putting this. No offence to JC, and to be honest with you, all the background noise, I'm glad I'm actually not doing it just for a moment because it's getting louder. But I will get this video up, and we'll have a look at the stuff that JC sent me. I'd sent, the thing was that, when I've said it before, I'd sent that flat Napoleonic figure to him just because I knew he'd mentioned how much he'd liked him, and he remembered him from when he was in Germany in the army and all the rest of it. And I thought, oh, he'll like this, I can always paint another one at some stage. And I don't do it for getting stuff back, just like these people don't, send me stuff for getting stuff back. It was just, I've got it and I make him happy, and that's great. But he wanted to send this stuff down, and I did say I was going to put a video up, so I will do. It's but at the moment they're clanging. You might not hear it, but I can, and it's throwing me off. So I'll do that video either today or in the next couple of days, and there'll be some other bits to show you. Definitely World War II will wait till they're finished now. Once they're finished, as in based and stuff. Oh, another question. Does anybody know? I thought I bought some, but I don't think I have. I can understand making a coil of barbed wire for war games related size, so 28mm. Sorry. Just like making a spring, isn't it? You just wind it around a painting handle, brush handle, yeah, and then tease it out a bit. You've got some barbed wire. Does anybody know how you actually can stick some little spikes on rather than just a coil of wire? I just fancied doing. I thought the idea for the World War II figures that I'd put the odd bit of wire. Is there a particular way? Don't tell me I've got to tie literally little thin. If I might try that. Oh God. Tie some little thin bits to the wire to make the barbs. Yeah. Anybody know or can point me into the direction of a video? I will go looking, but quite often I'll say something and there's some good people out there that already have the information. So yeah, look after yourselves and we'll catch each other soon on another video.